Scottish serial killer. I'm forgetting the actual murderer's name, but fuck him. But it was there was a movie that dramatized the incident starring David Tennant, and he did like a really good job. It was a guy that was like killing gay guys and then like shoving their bodies down the drain, and that's how he got caught.
Oh yeah, and then he tried to be like, oh, I just eat a lot of KFC.
Yeah,
that guy.
That guy. Yeah. So I had grown up with these rumors that he was really into Oh Superman, and then for the paper I was like going to talk about that, and then I ended up in a 4-hour research hole where I found, there's actually no substantive evidence for this, so I had to talk about it, but to talk about that in an academic paper I had to explain the serial murders. And I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? What is this?
Hell yeah.
I'm having to cite, like, just fucking case files, but it's also an American academic paper, so I'm having to explain what a barrister is. You know?
I've been doing my own sort of research, though. I'm ready for today's episode.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've been getting really into looks maxing. Mm-hmm. I've been listening to a lot of Midwest emo, and I've been watching some romantic comedies.
Okay,
so
don't get me wrong. I fucking love Midwest emo, like, unironically.
Dude, Braid. Great band.
So good. Just, I like music where I have to lay, like, the only way you can dance to it is lay on the ground or inside your shower, and that's all you do.
Or you just stare at your feet in a crowded room.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of shuffle.
What is looks maxing?
Oh, sweet summer child. You don't worry.
I'll just Google it.
Oh, no.
It's essentially just men's health advice, but given in the same way that you would give a video game tutorial.
Yeah, looks maxing is like, what if when we're giving men's advice on like health and like dressing nicer and stuff, we put it through the lens of phrenology?
Yeah, I would say not initially. That's like saying it's like health and wellness content where it's like there are a lot of people who have good advice on like getting stronger, gaining weight for people underweight, losing weight for people who need to lose weight or want to, all those sort of things. But then people started making money making that content, and then it immediately turned into like drink your piss kind of like weird content. Whereas that's kind of what happened with looks maxing, where it started out as just like, okay, we found a way that men will engage with like health and beauty tips, basically. Mm-hmm. And then people like, oh, this makes money. Andrew Tate time.
So it's just like, hey guys, you can wear a little concealer if you want. Like, that's fine. Honestly, concealer, fantastic. I highly recommend it for everyone because you could just be like a fucking little goblin, not take care of yourself, drink all the coffee, stay up late, party, whatever, and just like a $10 tube of magic.
Or just get yourself some collagen powder and get a lot of beta carotene. Eat carrots.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just slam some vitamins and then just like little concealer under the eyes. No, ain't no one gotta know.
Yeah. Find a good lotion. Get some good sunscreen.
Fucking sunscreen and drink water. God damn it.
And a lot of water. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There you go. We saved y'all like what, $50?
Yeah.
We want our listeners to get laid and take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Drink water, sunscreen, vitamins.
Hell yeah.
Brush your teeth.
Some dark greens.
You gotta wash your ass if you must. You gotta brush your hair if you must.
I do love
that song. You
gotta
wash your
It's a good song.
It's a good song. It's also just good advice.
Yeah. Get some rubber toothbrush, something to like really get your skin on your face, because a lot of dead skin collects on your face more than anywhere else. That's where a lot of redness and pimples come from.
Well, if you're doing face exfoliations, you kind of want to avoid like physical abrasions.
Well, that's why they make the soft rubber face scrubbers.
I found doing a double cleanse has like saved so much for me, because I buy an oil cleanser. I initially got it to get rid of makeup, but I found out, if I just use an oil cleanser and then just wash my face normally,
okay,
it like the oil cleanser just like breaks up all the dead skin and oil that's already on your face, and then use the soap to get rid of it. Which I have to do in the summer really hard because I wear so much sunscreen because I am a day walker.
That's true. But speaking of health and beauty, hi and welcome to Blank Bodies, a Vampire the Masquerade V5 tabletop horror and health and wellness podcast.
Oh God.
We're about to romance you, as this is Sex and Romance Month.
Hello, welcome to Fuck Month.
I'm your host Hunter, and I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm John.
You're very intently looking at that screen. Did you actually start looking up look maxing?
I did, but then I got bored with it pretty quickly, so now I'm reading Caldonic Rituals.
Oh, okay. That's very on brand for you.
I thought you were distracted and you were just going to say hi, and then your name came. I thought it was, and I'm joined by hi, and that's Sarah.
I'm Sarah. Hi, hello. So yeah, we decided instead of doing the romance episode in February, because that's what plebes would do, we're doing it in May.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
It's more pagan
chocolate
that
companies.
Fuck corporate establishments. Celebrate May Day by building a wicker man.
Also, I was outside yesterday.
Yeah.
And there was so much pollen in the air.
You could see it.
And you know what? Oh, not only just in the air, but you could see it on like films on the water.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my
That's when you
God.
know it's bad. That's why I was sick for like a week. And I normally don't have allergies, but like you could see it floating on the water around
It's so
here.
It's bad.
And I kept getting nosebleeds, and everyone's like, "Go to the doctor." I'm like, "It's just the pollen.
Yeah,
I can't."
I'm just
It's
dry.
just
My
getting it.
sinuses are dried out.
But I bring that up
Mm-hmm.
because pollen
It's romantic.
it is pretty much just tree cum.
It is.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about sex,
Yeah, we're gonna step over the fact that too many male trees have been planted because cities were like, fuck poor people getting fruit.
yeah,
Like, that's weird. Anyways, so this episode, we're gonna talk about the mechanics of vampire sex, blood marriages, running games with spicy content and romance plots, and further review of the Bloodstained Love source book.
yeah,
We're just shoving it all into one.
boink.
Double penetration, if you will.
There's gonna be a lot of those jokes today.
Yeah, content warning. Brrr, content warning. We're going to be talking about sex. So dicks, vagines, booba, semen, all that stuff will be discussed. If you don't want to listen to it, you can just skip it. Skip the episode. Non-conventional sex acts are also going to be discussed. If you're not into that, skip it. Skip this one. Various forms of physical and emotional intimacy will be discussed. If that's a squeaky topic for you, skip the episode. Blood play will also be discussed.
If you
know.
don't like that,
Skip it.
skip.
Unhealthy relationship dynamics will be discussed. If that's uncomfy, skip the episode. Abuse and domestic violence will also be discussed. If you're not into that, good. Those are bad things.
Yeah.
Also, if you don't want to hear about it, skip this episode. We love you all. Take some fruit snacks on the way out.
Yeah. Now the content warning is out of the way. This is going to be a lot this episode. I don't know if it's all going to be heavy, but you're getting the full 2 in the pink, 1 in the stink. So
Hell yeah. This is going to be like the least horny episode for Vampire the Masquerade anything.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, strap in, fam. Let's go. I also want...
Strap in,
Yeah, strap in, strap on.
strap up.
Yes. Straps. I did want to make 2 little notes real quick. This script was written with gender and sex not being major factors in who may partner with whom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making a big distinction on that. I don't think queer love stories should be quarantined off any more than heterosexual love stories. It's people, consenting adults.
People be fucking.
People be fucking.
People be loving.
Mm-hmm. So if that...
What's in their pants shouldn't matter.
Exactly. And if that bothers you, bye.
Yeah.
as a semi-problematic man once said, I love lesbians. That just means they like the same thing I like.
Hell yeah. Just do the broiest high five in a fucking Lowe's.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Part 2 on the notes. While gender, sex, race, culture, etc. factors into what stories will be played in terms of sex and romance, that involves a deeper conversation about power and biases that needs its own fucking episode. So I'm not doing that right now. So if anybody's like, the Blank Bodies didn't talk about vampire interracial relationships, I'm like, I know I didn't. That needs so much more work, and we don't have time for that right now. Drink.
We haven't even done the base Bana Hakim episode yet.
Don't worry, we'll be getting into intersectionality issues with the Ministry episode. Thank you, listeners on the Patreon, for voting on that.
Yay.
Yay!
Yay, but also yay.
I've been
Yay.
wanting to get my tongue split for a long time.
Hell yeah.
Maybe I should do it for the episode.
I mean...
Right before, so I can't talk. And when I do, it's just a garble of blood.
Save that for some meats.
Save that for
yeah,
the
that's a good
Smeezy
point.
episode.
That's a good point.
All right.
I'll get that one done live.
Hell yeah.
That's our Halloween special this year, folks.
John gets his tongue split on stream. That's gonna break so much TOS.
Right.
Like, yeah, we're gonna have a live stream where John's getting his tongue split. We have to, like, black bar you doing it just so we don't get fucking nuked from orbit.
Probably a black bar going down to the ground, because there's a lot of saliva and blood that goes
Yeah.
everywhere during those.
And I'll still be there making goofy jokes and making
Hell
people
yeah.
uncomfortable.
Hell yeah.
We can get Cornman to just ominously stare at people in the tattoo shop. I'm sure they'll love it.
Alright,
It'll
so
be great.
for this episode are the V5 core book, Bloodstained Love, Planned Parenthood on Sex and Gender. Elements of a Gothic novel by Robert Harris. Playing with Power. The Essential Differences Between Kink and Abuse by Lee Shevik, who is a researcher on domestic violence.
Nice.
So he's academically accredited.
He's smart.
That
Yes.
is really important. Great work. That may be one of the most depressing job descriptions I've ever heard.
Right.
Like, thank you, Lee. I have to say.
Thank you for taking one for the goddamn team. So, this poor man's brain. Anywho. So, we're gonna start with the basics. Sex basics, if you will.
Spacix.
Basics. So, for those of you who don't know, assigned sex / biological sex is the assigned sex is a label that you're given at birth based on medical factors, including hormones, chromosomes, genitals, mostly genitals. Most people are assigned male or female, but this is what's put on their birth certificates.
We fucked up. Basics.
Basics.
Basex.
Basics. Fuck.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This doesn't fully capture the complex biological, anatomical, and chromosomal variations that can occur. This is from Planned Parenthood, if anybody wants to look up the sources. So, that is sex, the noun, or the descriptor.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is more complicated than is man, is woman.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is a controversial thing where it's like, oh god, what was... Yeah, for at least 200 years, biologists have been running time and again into the issues of the fact that sex is a complex thing and is not just inherently this is man, this is woman, because that's how science works. And if that bothers you, I'm sorry, here's a fruit snack on the way out.
I don't know, I feel like society's moving in a way where I think we'll soon, at least people will accept the third femboy as a distinction. At least socially, we're there, I feel like.
As somebody who's non-binary and on the intersex spectrum, I'm like, I guess I technically count as a femboy, but I feel like if I were to tell people I'm a femboy and then I showed up, they would be very disappointed.
You don't even have cat ears.
I don't have cat ears, I'm not scrawny, I don't have knee socks. It's...
Well, you know what? We're going to have to get you some cat ears and some knee socks for when you meet somebody being a femboy. You'll still show up, but at least they won't be as disappointed because you'll have the ears and the knee socks.
Then we just got to teach you to code.
No. I already know color theory. Is that not enough torment?
No, all of us know that. At least to some basics.
I also know some basics for code. I used to have a MySpace page.
Nope, doesn't count.
Damn it. Anyways.
CSS, outdated.
Outdated. HTML, get fucked.
Gone.
All right, gender. Gender is a social and legal status and set of expectations from society about behaviors, characteristics, and thoughts. Each culture has standards about the way that people should behave based on their gender. This is also generally male or generally female, but instead of being about body parts, it's more about how you're expected to act because of your sex.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. So, sex and gender are different things.
Yes.
But they are linked together. So,
Word.
Yeah. There are some fun theory things about I appreciate in the discourse on these topics there's been a pushback on the I inherently have a whatever sex brain, but I've been socialized to be the opposite because of my assigned gender, and I'm like, it's more complicated than that. We're also not a gender and sex politics podcast, so I don't have everything to get into that, but this is the basics, so we all know what we're talking about in terms of relationships and fucking.
We do have our personal experiences with those two things, but that's about all we can speak of.
That's about it. Mm-hmm. I have some video essays and academic researchy things I could chuck at people if they're confused, but you can look at things. You're an adult. Hopefully. Please be an adult for this episode.
And please be an adult listening to the podcast.
Yeah. Like
this whole month is 18 plus month, please.
Like I can't stop you.
Yeah. But if you're listening to this and you hear anything you say and you say, I want that in my vampire game, I just, again, please beg you, make sure everyone you're also playing with is close to your own age, under 18.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's a bad situation that you should not be in.
Yeah, we do talk about that a little bit, so.
Yeah. I said that last episode too, but I've had some weird games.
Mm-hmm. It's squicky things happen.
Trying to find vampire games on Reddit in their late 2000s.
Oh my god. The World of Darkness message boards. Anyways, speaking of squeaky things, sexual activity. Sex isn't one size fits all. Ha ha. Sexual behaviors and desires can include kissing, rubbing bodies together, phone sex, aka sexting, reading or watching porn, using sex toys, masturbation, either alone or with partners. And then there's the what is normally thought of, which is oral, vaginal, and anal sex.
The trifecta.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe I'm being pedantic.
Yes.
But I've always thought sexting was specifically texting.
You're doing it on your phone, though.
Yeah.
What
Then
if
that's
it's video?
phone sex.
Or what if it's on a call or video?
Yeah, that I was just quoting verbatim what was on the Planned
That's fair.
Parenthood, because I thought that was like the best, like most succinct definition I could find.
Yeah.
And also support Planned Parenthood. They're a good organization.
Yeah,
and they
do
do
it.
more things than what the Republicans keep telling you they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just being pedantic. But
Yeah.
I always imagined phone sex is what you'd see in like a comedy from the 90s where someone calls a phone line.
And
Yeah.
they're like, hey there, sailor.
To be fair, I mean, there are still sex phone lines, but I think because of the digital age, most of that has shifted to like OnlyFans interactions.
Yeah.
Or cam sites.
Campsites.
Or people on Omegle seem to be really into that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and people could. I mean, I guess there's nothing to stop you from being horny in voice chats, but like,
Please don't in ours.
do not in ours. We don't. We have rules about that.
Mhm.
But yeah. So it was a hard time for me to find out a definition for what is sex, and I'm like, oh god, it's like trying to define what is porn.
Mm.
It's like there's
You know it when
gradients.
you see it. It's
Yeah.
hard to describe, but
Yeah, but these are this rough list of everything from doing smooches to rubbing and touching to insertions.
it involves physical acts or the watching thereof, I think is
Yeah.
a good descriptor.
But like in the context of being sexual,
Yeah, that's much harder.
yeah, because there's the like chaste kiss of like a grandparent kissing their grandchild on top of the head. I wouldn't say that was a sexual act. But then you get creepy grandparents and you're like, oh no. Insert a Joe Biden meme here.
Or like we make a lot of nasty jokes on this show.
Yep.
Usually, well, they're implying a sexual act. They are not sexual in nature. They're more gross and fun
Yeah.
for humor. And I don't know if you would describe that as sexual. It's that again.
in
It's one
that
of those weird
gradient.
lines
Yeah.
where it's like I am not making this joke to get anybody's motors a revving, but it involves things that get people's motor revving, and that's involved in the humor. So
Yeah, which kind of falls into the there is room for several different acts and behaviors to count as having a sexual overtone or being unexpectedly chaste. Be sure to have session zero chats and check-ins and all that kind of safety tools things that we've talked about in the consent series.
yeah, it's something that I think I'm more open to in my games than I was, especially more as we've had more consent talks and stuff. I have just had such a bad history of like when I first started playing, it was all like teenage boys, and every time something like that happened, it was awkward or bad or unfun, and so I was just like, we're not doing that. Has been my baseline for a very long time, and I think it still would be with people I didn't know too well, but I think I'm a little more open to the idea now.
Yeah.
That we've had more discussions on it, but
Yeah, we've also just
My
matured
character is
as
gonna
people.
bang your character.
Hell yeah. Maybe?
my character, the current game we're in, my character is a robot with a saw blade for a hand.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a super mutant. I'll figure it out.
I am a serve bot, so I guess I have a serve in it.
No! Oh my goodness. So, vampire sex. Can it happen? Yes, but kinda.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen a movie or read a novel, yes.
Yes. There's the handful of redeeming qualities of Queen of the Damned film.
It's sexual, all right.
Oh, yep. That movie's very foundational for a lot of people. I've had the joke where it's like, okay, you're either a Queen of the Damned kid or you're the Mummy 1999 with Brendan Fraser kid.
Why not both?
You can have both.
Okay.
I like both, but I don't know if either of them were an awakening, so to speak.
Yeah.
For me. I know, but then again, my first crush was Fran Drescher on The Nanny.
Honestly, good
That was-
choice.
Very good choice.
Very good choice. Not a 10 out of 10.
That's an interesting show to dissect now. We'll have to come back to that.
Well, we will.
I guess I need a maid
Fuck.
or live-in nanny.
Yeah.
Well, you need somebody to watch over Jersey.
That's true. I do have a little son.
You do. You have a little guy. Oh my god.
I'm a dog dad.
You are.
Single dog dad.
Is that why you're on this hat meta now?
No, I just got a hat because I didn't want to do my hair.
Oh,
it's long enough to where it's bad if I don't put shit in my hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in public and I was like, I need a hat.
That's fair. All right, so with vampire sex for World of Darkness, it comes in two forms. Haha. There's the humanity route. So the higher humanity is, not only is it easier for you to pretend to be immortal in general, it allows you to partake in mortal activities. Which is, I guess, the nicest way to say you can bone.
Yeehaw!
Canonically, you can. So... the sources on this, if you go to the core book, between pages 236, 239, there's like the whole list of the humanity charts and what can do what. We also have episodes about humanity if you want to check that out later. And if you're in the Bloodstained Love book, there's a little section, info box on page 12 that talks about the humanity and how that relates to you having romance and other adult activities. So, rough breakdown. Humanity 10, you don't need to do blush of life, you can eat and drink as normal, and you can fuck as normal. You're just kind of a guy with extra steps.
All right.
Nobody's ever Humanity 10, so...
I feel like once you hit Humanity 10, that's almost the same as hitting Humanity 0, where you're like...
NPC
You're an
zone.
NPC now, man. You're
yeah,
too
it's like
good.
you got Golconda out,
Yeah.
almost. Yeah.
I feel like if a character achieved Golconda, I would take that character away and say that's the end of their story anyway.
Yeah. I could see that. That would definitely be a discussion. It's like, hey, narratively, it would make sense to, like, NPC out this character. You kind of won World of Darkness. Congrats. But, yeah, so next step down, Humanity 9. You don't need to blush of life to do things and look like a person. You just look kind of sick all the time, though. You can eat and drink raw meat and some liquids. It didn't specify what liquids, it just said some.
Wine and cum.
Sure. And you can also fuck as normal.
Yeah.
All right, well.
So, yeah, I guess you could.
Makes sense.
Humanity 8, you do need to blush to, like, look like a person and, like, use smartphones. You can have wine, but that is it. And you can fuck as normal as long as you're also using blush, which is cool. Humanity 7, this is the standard where most characters will start. You blush to interact with things and look like a person. You can fake eating and drinking, but you do eventually have to expel it from your body, and if you fuck up the faking roll, you can just vomit awkwardly in front of everyone. Which, oh god, not into that. Sorry, I just remembered a bunch of very bad, like, vomit dolls exploitation films that are terrible. Don't watch those.
Yeah, they're bad.
Do not. But you can physically fuck. You just don't get pleasure from it. But you can do a dex and charisma roll with the difficulty being either your partner's composure or wits. To do a fuck, but, like, you're not really getting anything out of it outside of whatever emotional or, like, power play that this is for you, but the rocks are not getting off. Humanity 6, you can physically fuck, but with no real pleasure. It's the exact same system as 7, except it's at a -1 to your dex and charisma pool.
Wait, I love that you can be rolling this.
Yeah, okay, 6, yeah.
Or you're rolling the bones to bone.
Yeah, this is the bone roll. The bones.
I feel like I, as an ST, if you make it to Humanity 9 or 10, I'd give you a +1. Good job.
Well, you just don't have to do the roll, but
that's fair.
If you wanted to keep rolling.
Oh, so it's not okay. I see.
Yeah,
so you have to start rolling at this point.
Once you're at 7, you have to start rolling if you're gonna do it, because basically at this point it's a performance check.
Okay, I get it.
You're basically rocking a stunt cock.
Just like porno actor.
Yeah, kinda.
Area where you're like, blood in the penis, or whatever. Okay.
But also looking like you're enjoying it like normal and giving it... Yeah, basically it's porn acting.
Yeah, okay.
And then Humanity 6, it's a little harder, so there's a removal of a die from the pool. At Humanity 5, it's the exact same porno performance, except it's -2 to the dex and charisma pool.
Oof.
And then once you hit Humanity 4, you can't even fake fuck anymore. There is some debate in the canon text about whether this is a lack of ability, like your body just won't let you do it. You're too off-putting and creepy for anyone to want to fuck you. Or you just don't desire to do it anymore because you're so detached that just the idea of that kind of intimacy just doesn't cross your brain anymore.
I feel like you could kind of pick whatever of those fits best for your character.
Yeah,
but either way, sex at Humanity 4 and below, non-lore friendly.
No.
I will say the coming off is too off-putting for mortals. I think is the least likely between those three.
Oh, yeah.
Because people want to, like, fuck Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah, they're just like, a choice?
It is a choice. That is what it is.
I do like the idea that you're just like, because you get sicker and weirder looking. I do like the idea that you're so much closer to a corpse than living human at that point that your body just won't perform the functions for it to work.
Yeah, and then...
Which could also be uncomfortable with some people. Mm-hmm. Like supernatural erectile dysfunction and whatnot, but...
Yeah, and if you're running your game where vampires, as they're losing humanity, are becoming more corpse-like, it's just like, now you're stumbling into necrophilia, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with that on my table, so just no.
That's fair. I feel like that's at least always in the subtext of being a vampire, though, is that you're kind of a walking corpse.
Yeah.
It's just how much you want to talk about it.
And how much you look like it, I think, is the big difference. Like, Humanity 8 is still a corpse, but they don't need to even roll for Blush of Life.
Oh, so they
look like a person.
At Humanity 8, you do need to start rolling for Blush, but you get to do re-rolls because you're better at it.
I just read the wrong line, that's
all.
Oh,
you're good. But you're still kind of, everyone's like, you doing good? You just kind of look
ill.
Do you have tuberculosis?
Where 10, it's just like, it doesn't even say to do Blush.
No, yeah, 10,
like,
you're just a guy with extra steps.
Yeah.
So the other form of fucking for vampires is blood bonding.
Real quick, I have a question. Because a lot of those Humanity 10 things, you also can kind of swing just being a thin blood. Mm-hmm. Would you give a thin blood an extra bonus if they had something they had sunk points into?
There's a merit you can get as a thin blood where you're basically just a guy.
Okay. So Humanity just wouldn't factor in then? For most of those, anyway?
For a lot of those things, yeah.
Okay, so essentially they can just buy their way out of worrying about some of that, unless they would be double better at those things.
I haven't played a Thin Blood that has fallen that far into the Humanity track, and I might need to,
look into
run into that a bit more. Because, yeah, I think if you're losing Humanity at that point, you should start taking negatives.
But if you have
the merit, yeah. So it's like, I don't want to invalidate your merit as a storyteller, but you've also been fucking around and you need to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like most of those situations could have in-game repercussions that wouldn't have to be mechanically represented. Yeah. If you're fucking around, you can have repercussions that aren't just like your dick doesn't work, start rolling.
Yeah, well, I might enact the, instead of your dick doesn't work, it is you need to do the rolls to see if you actually enjoy this or not.
Okay.
So it's like, you have the merit so you can do the thing. I'm not going to take that from you, but do this roll because you're becoming detached from yourself. So it's one of those, can you even be in the moment?
Yeah, I feel like if you have those merits, you would still be able to do those things, but it's how you interact with them that would change.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
So just cool, you fucked around so much you permanently whiskey dicked yourself. Good job. But
nice.
Yeah.
Blood bonds.
As vampires slide down the humanity track, their desire for human connection can become replaced with the connection that they get from sipping the vitae.
That spicy sip.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew there's a sexual connotation to it, but the idea that it replaces regular sex is interesting.
Yeah, well, it's the way it's kind of described is definitely the more romanticized aspects of sex, where it's not the I am getting off to get the endorphins feeling.
Yeah, I'm not here to come, I'm here to romance.
Yeah, it's it's more the
closeness and the trust.
Yeah. And since vampires, especially if you're far enough down on the humanity track, cannot do that,
they essentially chemically, it's like a drug that lets them do that almost.
Yeah, that's where a lot of this gets kind of potentially very dicey, especially when you start intersecting blood bonds into having a heavier sexual connotation. You can run your games where it doesn't, and it's just purely an addiction metaphor if you want, but vampires, particularly in the Western context, it's all sexual innuendos and undertones and metaphors, so it's hard to not have that there.
Yeah.
Because, the penetration and the swimming of fluids and... Hot. Yes, exactly. So, the blood bond is not real love. It is a twisted obsession and addiction per the core book. Many vampires look at the bond with suspicion and fear, knowing it can warp their perspective. That is kind of how the core book presents this as this is a false thing, but some people will do it just because they just want to feel something, or they're using it as a power tool or a power play, and is very written in a way where it's this is a very dicey and taboo thing to do, and depending on what kind of game you're playing like Camarilla games, they'll use it as a tool of like control and da-da-da-da. There's anarchs that are super like not into any kind of blood bonding because, hierarchy bad.
You could even have a prince who's had enough trouble with it and said all blood bonds must be reported
and approved.
You must ask permission before blood bonding someone other than a ghoul, things like that.
Yeah.
Or even a ghoul. That also could be a good way to shape your game that wants to deal with those things as more taboo.
Yeah. Bloodstained Love expands upon these ideas, and it shares a perspective where vampires are romanticizing the bond. So some tell themselves that actually doing the blood bond is a truer form of love or is a shortcut to love because you're involving like the essential essence of yourselves with each other and da-da-da-da-da-da.
Was it Toreadors that said that?
Probably. Probably.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. Some others will see it as the only pathway to form intimacy once their humanity is low enough where it's like, oh, I've done goofed. I literally cannot make connections with people in a way that I used to be able to. This is the only way I can, so I'm just YOLO. This is just what I'm gonna do.
I guess better fake love than no love in a vampire's life?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, well, it's like being gluten intolerant. But you still want cookies?
Mm-hmm.
So until recently, all gluten-free cookies were really garbage.
Yeah, they were.
So it's like, well, at least I get to have the shitty gluten-free cookie instead of no cookie.
Right. Okay.
Others will view the bond as a tool to enforce obedience and loyalty. There is a chance of a thrall to lose themselves to their obsessions, mortal or vampire, and take extreme and toxic actions to get the regent to quote-unquote love them back.
That's intense.
Yeah, which I appreciate the book brought up these like alternative options of the bond not just being one overlord and one subject, and the dynamics only go in one direction. It's like, no, this can go in both ways, and you could get some really interesting stories of somebody who is like, oh yeah, I'm in charge of things, da 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 da, but they're not like keeping track, or they're abusing the privilege, and either they're super abusive and the person kind of gets out from underneath that, and that's where you get like the weird like free range goals. Ghoul. Yeah, free range goals getting stolen. The Bloodstained Love book describes of somebody getting ghouled, and then the ghoul just getting so obsessed with the vampire that they like lock them away somewhere and is like forcing them to try and like love them back. And depending on what kind of character you have, they might not at all be able to return the affections in the way that the obsessive person is now. And it's just like, I'm like, oh, that's
right.
Spooky.
I could also see this is more along lines of like a Gothic romance, I suppose, but like someone who submits themselves, lets their partner blood bond them as a form of like sharing of trust. And it's like, clearly I'm higher in society or whatever, but I am going to let you blood bond me to prove my feelings for you.
Yeah, there's discussions in the book too of like older vampires just kind of like wanting to feel again and submitting to a blood bond to a younger person, and just like the kind of power dynamics and stories that could come from that, which I'm like, that's neat. This could go so horribly sideways.
If a blood bond's involved, it always can.
Yeah. So a lot of do consent talks and check-ins, because holy fuck. But among the kindred, these often take the form of biting each other and drinking each other's blood. This is a very quick way to form a mutual blood bond unless precautions are taken. Safe sex is a thing even among the dead.
Hell yeah.
Bloodstained Love, pages 11 and 12. I just thought that was really funny that they're just like, safe sex is good. I'm like, thank you. Do be practicing safe sex.
I agree.
I believe somewhere in the book it does, in one of the early books, not just sex related. This can go to feeding and stuff. Feeding is sexually coded. We're not getting into all that, but it does mention that while vampires will not be able to feel the effects of like illness and disease, they could still be carriers. So that could also be a less gross or more gross, depending on your table, way to discuss things like STDs and safe sex, where
there is the blood plague lore sheet.
There's the blood plague.
And there's stuff that with the Hakata and using disease and infections and stuff as part of their rituals and magic and stuff. And yeah, this can go from like a thought experiment to spicy and dicey really quick, depending on your game. So, I also just think it's funny. It's like, yeah, you and your partner could just be like doing hot vampire stuff and then just kind of oops into a blood bond.
That's why you gotta be safe and just like do a cut, let the blood trickle down, drink it off that.
Yeah.
Don't tap straight from the vein.
Yeah. So blood taken directly from the source on 3 separate nights within a year of each other, potentially dragging the process out into 2 years. That's kind of the rules per the core book for this. So yeah, you could technically, if you wanted to do blood swappy things and be intimate but not risk a blood bond, you could just, bleed into a cup or, let it run down your body and stuff like that. But if you take it directly from the tap on 3 separate nights within a year of each thing, that can form a bond, like a full one. So be careful about that.
Within a year, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
On humans, it's like a month, right?
This is just blood bonds in general.
Oh, I thought, okay.
Yeah, once the bond is formed, and then it runs on like a month
Once
cycle.
It's formed, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, yes, I'm remembering now.
Yeah, that's per what the core book is saying in the Blood Bondy section, if you want to double check that out. If you're in the Bloodstained Love book, they're a little more vague on how they describe this timetable, and it's taken as 3 separate occasions in a short period of time. So what the fuck that means? Speed of plot, I guess.
Yeah, because a short period of time for someone who's like 800 years old is like 20 years.
Yeah, so this might be the, you can do it in 3 separate nights or whatever. So Bloodstained Love kind of wrote that in a way where it's like, if you as a table decide that the 1 year time limit is like too much, because it'll get in the way of the plot, you can kind of hand wave it. Decide how horny you want to be with this at your table, I guess.
To me, a year is almost long enough that I feel like, depending on the pacing of your game and how stringent on it, it'd be really easy to forget.
Yeah.
Because, some games we play, we literally play out every night. We're busy motherfuckers. We don't take, a week to, breathe. It's not like we're picking this up next month at Elysium. It's very night 1, night 2, night 2. We're fucking busy motherfuckers. And so in a game, pacing might also affect that, because someone put fucking points that they have people they need to feed off on their sheet or things like that. If you're gonna say 3 times a year, it's all right, that merit you bought, you get to use it 3 times this entire game because we play very quickly. So worth keeping in mind too.
Yeah, these are just some balance things. And if people are like, well, this book says this, and then this book says this, I'm like, you're right, these 2 books do say different things. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yes. Just pick one.
Yeah, we're just whatever the rule is, just make a note somewhere so everybody understands, this is what we're agreeing to, this is how it's going to work.
Could be session 0. If you're ST and you just want to pick one, go for it. Otherwise, it's one of the things I probably wouldn't remember to bring up, so the second it does come up, then you just make a decision with the group and move on.
Yeah, you can either take a pause right then, or do the scene, do your ruling, and then just have a post-seat session, hey, this is the ruling I made, are we cool with it? This is the rule going forward, are we cool with it? Alright, move on. Because I've played games where no bonding happens, and then I've played games where bonding happens every other session, and you're just why are we like this? Anyway, so mutual blood bonding, also called blood weddings.
Hell yeah. They're kind of doing that Angelina Jolie, Billy Bob Thornton-ish.
Kinda, yeah. So, some vampire couples partake in swapping vitae on equal terms, creating a mutual bond as opposed to only one give, one taketh. This typically does not go well. Do not recommend in lore, but, at your table, if you want to have the drama, go for it. Mutual blood bonds can very easily become highly toxic, especially because, best case scenario, your ex will just be around for fucking ever.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No, that's best case scenario.
Cartoon pulling on my collar.
In an attempt to keep this from getting out of hand, some couples will keep this on a strict schedule or will form low blood bonds with lots of other people to spread out the obsession. So there's too many people to focus on, so they can't hyper focus and get really toxic on one person in particular, which I'm like, that is a choice. Both of those are choices. Somebody who is polyamorous, that second one made me go, I don't like that, but narratively I can understand why you would do that.
The lots of little blood bonds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just well, I want to be bloodbound or I want to be in a mutual bond with my partner, but we also don't want to become super obsessive, toxic fuckwits. So if we just kind of have that kind of bond with a lot of people, I can't get too hyper focused. And I'm like, that's just, you guys just you scenic rooted yourself to a vinculum. Good job.
Yeah. I mean,
Note to self, next time in a relationship, drink other people's blood to avoid codependency. Got it.
Got it.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what they're doing, and it's not a good choice, so,
So don't do that.
That's why you have, that's what's called a second family situation.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you not to explore this. This was just what was brought up as options in the Bloodstained Love book.
And maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought you could only have, like, one major bond at a time. So you'd have, like, your primary bond, and then there would be a bunch of lower tier ones. Okay, I thought the big one would override all the others. Or is that just in situations where the two are opposed to each other?
Yeah, that.
Okay.
Yeah, so
like, you could still be bonded to someone, and if it's just you and them, they would have power over you. But if your partner was there, they'd be like, haha, guess what?
Yeah.
I tell him to kill you.
Yeah, which also falls into the things in polyamory that happen where people have, like, their primary partner, and the primary partner gets to, like, have veto decisions and things and over the other partners. I tend to prefer relationship anarchy. That's my preference. I understand that that's a lot of deconstructing for people, and some folks don't want to fuck with that. That's its own fucking topic.
That just seems like more of a job.
What?
The having to, like, interview your partner's partners?
Oh, like vetting partners and things?
I'm not necessarily a polyamory person, but the one thing I do avoid any relationship is extra work. And that seems like...
That works for some couples.
No,
and
if that's
how it works for y'all, like, that's great.
No, not a judgment, just for my own. Like, I hate job interviews.
Yeah.
And, like, there's a fun and a stress to dating.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to deal with that as a third-party observer, you know what I mean?
No, that's fair.
Like, do they get an exit interview? Like, you were really close, but, like...
I've heard about polygams doing that.
I don't know. The Warhammer play just made me really uncomfortable, especially since you couldn't get over the white fangs, and...
It's like, look, I am an advocate of love is not a finite resource, so, like, cordoning yourself off from people seems weird to me. But because
I only got so much love to give.
Yeah, but but that doesn't template over into this scenario very well, because with the mutual blood bonds, you literally only can have.
You have to.
You have to.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, this can get toxic and weird. Imagine.
Weird. Wait, hold on.
I think the more normal way to say what I was saying is love may not be finite, but my time is.
Yeah. You know what? That's valid, and I respect that.
Vampires are weird.
They don't have time, though, so they have time.
They have all the time.
To perform sexual exit interviews.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Is it a sexual exit interview, or is it just an exit interview about the...
Well, it depends. When at your session 0,
like,
when you
look,
determine how sexual the blood bond is,
okay, all right.
then it determines if...
It's like the opposite of a gang, where you have to get beat out of the gang.
Yeah,
it's
you get
like,
beat
we gotta
off.
bang you out.
Oh, you're winning different.
I'm sorry. I spooled myself up on the idea of you're in a romance plot with a Ventru, and they're trying to, like, end the bond and all that stuff, and they have an exit interview with you.
Oh my god.
Well, they're breaking up, like, that's how they break up with you.
They straight up bring, like, a performance review.
Yes!
Ventru.
Like, with the really nice embossed paper.
I really hope you are successful in your future endeavors. Feel free to use me as a reference.
Yes.
I love it and I hate it at the same time. Oh, it's so good. Anyways, in light of the Vermilion Wedding, which is a big canonical event, there's been an upsurge in the trend of those bonding, and it's become fashionable and desirable as a sign of love beating out ennui, quote unquote.
Okay.
As opposed to blood weddings being made out as a Camarilla court punishment or a way to have secret affairs behind closed doors. So now it's being more publicly acceptable, and it's kind of trendy.
Forgot that Cam is gross and made people like blood wed as no-nos.
Yeah, because there'd be forced bondings due to, like, you know, this one's out of pocket.
Yeah.
Hell, even Victoria Ash in the canonical Fluff 4v5 talks about how she just was a terrible person and would force neonates to do blood weddings, like full ceremonies and everything, just for fun.
Because she thought they were pretty?
She was bored. Like, Victoria Ash is not a good person.
No.
She's very, like, even on vampire terms, I'm like, guys.
Kind of like that movie Hitch.
Yeah. Not a good person.
But more evil.
Super. Yeah, it's just fucked. Like, in the fluff, she's, like, commenting on the facts, like, oh, it's ironic that I'm having to do this for political reasons, and I've done this to so many others.
We'll talk about it more,
Whoops.
because I haven't finished the book yet, but I know before there was a lot, even in the parts of the book I've read, there's a lot of, well, do they love each other? Is this a political arrangement, or is this a personal arrangement made political?
Or is this a political arrangement that has become personal and gets very Bridgerton-y?
Yeah.
Or maybe it was personal and then it became political and then it became personal. And then they moved out.
There's a lot of like potential tea there, and if you're into that kind of drama, which I low-key kind of am, so for me I'm like, yes, this is fantastic.
I didn't think I was, but then, rest in peace, my friends convinced me to do a reality TV show podcast for a while. Mm-hmm. Turns out I love that kind of dumb tea.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Dude, they just announced fucking MILF Manor Season 2.
No!
Awful.
We might have to get the gang back together.
Why does it exist?
The gang's all here. But yeah, as a note, we'll be discussing the Vermilion Wedding in more detail when the Bana Hakim episode happens, so vote for that at your leisure, patrons.
Yeah.
Not gonna get into it. There is chunks about the Vermilion Wedding in the Camarilla book, and there's stuff about it in the Bloodstained Love book. So if you want more information on it,
I think it's mentioned in other places too.
Yeah, and
it's one of those big events in 5th Ed.
Yeah, and it's like one of the steps for the lore sheet for Victoria Ash is that you had an invite and were there. Mm-hmm. So people come up to you and they're like, I want the goss.
Right.
So if you want to run a VTM game where it's a lot more chitty chatty politics and gossip, like, this is so good for that.
It's like that, the Convention of Thorns are like the two big things that specifically happen between V20 and V5.
Oh, you mean the Convention of Chicago?
Yes.
Yeah. So, woohoo, there's that. So, wrapping up, sex scenes in your game. I'm gonna leave that up to you guys. You figure that out. I'm not your parent. You do what you're gonna do.
That is not a figured out at the table. That is a session 0 discussion.
Yeah.
That is like a session zero discussion.
Yeah.
It's like, is this the type of game you're looking for? Yes, no. You should or should not be at this table. Moving on, session 0.
Yeah.
I tend to personally be oh, these two are flirty. That's fine to watch. Oh, these two are gonna go upstairs and end the scene for them. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you want to do a feeding scene or something, that's fine. But I don't need to get in any more detail than that.
Yeah.
That's, I think, good yellow light, since we tend to use the green, yellow, red light system here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the red, yellow, green just because it's fairly intuitive and it's on the most popular, Freed the Monty Cook, consent sheet.
But your yellow could mean something different than my yellow. So
exactly.
I would say with a lot of the others, you can be kind of loose and adjust as you go unless someone specifically brings up an issue. This is one that if someone marks anything but green, I would ask them specifically where that line is.
Yeah, where is this line? What are we doing?
Because I used to put red, but I realized for a lot of people, they wouldn't even talk about it at the table as an option because I put red. Whereas I don't really care about that. I'm just not trying to play Fatal.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can do red asterisks or yellow asterisks.
This might be a good one. If you have apprehensions, as a good ST, you should ask your players if you're using a consent sheet. And you probably use a consent sheet if this is going to come up in your game, period. But also, if you're going to mark anything but green, give even a vague, we should end things about here.
Yeah, and you could do, I've used movies a lot to kind of get a tone on, not only horror and violence, but, how horny it's going to get. Because for some people, their idea of, a peak sexual film is The Notebook. Other people,
Psycho.
A movie recently
American
that has
Psycho.
There's a movie, or Poor Things is I think a great film about there's a lot of fucking in it.
There's a lot going on in that
There's
movie.
a lot in that movie.
That's a don't watch with your parents kind of movie because they heard it was a cool Frankenstein movie. Yes, but no.
Poor Things is one of the best Promethean films I've ever fucking seen in my life. It is so good. But asterisk, a good chunk of the film is deconstructing gender roles and sexuality, especially in dealing with being a femme person coming of age. So yeah, a lot of masturbation. You watch Emma Stone make an O face a lot. Full nude. Same thing with Mark Ruffalo.
Damn.
Yeah, it's great. Good for them. But that is a movie where there is a lot of sex I would say the romance is low.
Hmm.
Yeah, because you have there's movies where like the romance is high, but you don't like see much of anything, and there's other films where you see a lot, but there's not a lot of flirting.
Right.
See, I don't mind romance as much as I used to, but I've also been exposed to people who run it not like a teenage boy, so my palate has been cleansed a little bit.
I feel bad for a lot of dudes and the fact that just because romance and flirting stuff is seen as such a ew girly thing, that the time where it would be more socially make sense age-wise for you to like fuck around and do like the two plastic dolls like slamming into each other things happens way later, so it's extraordinarily awkward. And I'm just like, that sucks.
That's weird, but for me, my apprehension to it was more that like the people I played D&D with were also like, no offense if you're listening, guys, bad at it. And it was extra creepy because I was the NPC they were trying to bang or whatnot. And so it was just awkward all the way around for everyone, probably even the person trying to bang the wench at the tavern or whatnot. And it was very much like, we're just gonna not do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we're gonna put that in the fade to black section. I didn't have that term for it, but it's like you go have fun at the pet tavern anyway. We're moving on, and you can fill in the blank in your head was how I ran that for a very long time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, how graphic you're gonna get with any kind of hot and heavy petting, blah 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 blah. I do what you're gonna do. I can't stop you. I can give you advice on ways to handle that in ways that aren't gonna be creepy or exploitative or problematic.
It's kind of hard to do because everyone's line is different.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't know their line until it's been crossed.
Yeah.
If this is new for you or your players, you likely might learn some things about yourself doing this, and need to make sure you have a place where that can be done properly. Yeah.
And having the safety tools ahead of time to be like, no, is good in case you do run into the situation of like, yeah, I'm cool with this in theory, and then in practice you go, no, did not enjoy, do not. Little note I have, so Sex and Blood Sharing, which is in Bloodstained Love, page 52 and 53, had some actually shockingly good advice, despite some problems I've had with the book, on handling sex scenes and things. They do talk about like fade to black and various other like literary tools you can use. I have a gigantic asterisk on one portion though, which is a text box that says, in pornographic detail, you can play vampire in many different contexts, including for the purposes of sexual titillation. One way to do this is to play the game with your sexual partner on a one-on-one basis or with more consenting informed sex partners, using the sexual exploits of your character as a form of foreplay. Do what you want as long as all parties are consenting. This is Sarah talking now. I'm not quoting the book anymore. I cannot stress this enough. All participants need to be consenting.
They have to know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
They have to be no questions left.
Yeah, I'm super down for people like role playing, even if it's not with vampire. Like if you and your partner are playing D&D and you decide you want to role play a sexy scene where like your paladin and your rogue bang out in the tavern on your own time, not at the table, cool, whatever. I don't give a fuck. As your DM in those games, I'm like, I don't want to have to manage you guys trying to mount each other at the tavern and just completely disrupt the game when it was something that we had not agreed as that was the kind of game we were going to get into.
Yeah, again, that's going to be different for everyone. If I had a couple who's doing that kind of shit, I would likely be like, A, cool it. B, if that's what's happening, that is a scene that you two can roleplay together after you leave my table.
Yeah.
That can be headcanon.
Yeah. And yeah.
Nothing in there can happen that will affect the story for anyone else, but otherwise go wild.
Yeah, fine. You can take care of your fade to blacks later on your fucking time, and depending on what kind of storyteller you are, some people might want those details, and that's cool. Like, I know people that share, like, slash fics and their Wattpads and all that kind of shit with each other. Some folks I don't need you to send me the screenshots of, like, your Harmony posting with each other.
I drew a diagram. Can I please send the diagram?
It's important to my character's backstory.
I used a slide ruler. It took a lot of work.
Because the other person that needs to consent to this is your DM, is your storyteller. It's like, because I want to yes and player things, but sometimes players will start doing things, and I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with this.
I'm gonna coin a new term for this. I feel like these moments could be called a yes anyway from the AST, where it's like, yes, have fun with that anyway.
Yes,
that.
and anyways. Yes and no but and yes anyways. I love that. But I cannot stress enough, if you're gonna go into the porno realms with your fucking games, please do check-ins. Please make sure everybody's okay with this.
We did a whole episode about bleed. Everything we said in that multiply by 5 if you are actually fucking.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, I don't want to stop people from having a good time. But if you having a good time is ruining other people's good times, you're not having a good time.
And that also goes into creep territory.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're forcing whatever sexual activities you're fantasizing or engaging in into a place where they're not welcome.
Yeah.
That is problematic.
I've dealt with several times situations where there was a bleed issue where I think somebody was interested in me outside a game, and then they brought it to the character, and then I had to deal with that in character, but I wasn't aware of the start point of this, so I was just like, okay, and character's like, yeah, no, that makes sense that, X, Y, and Z's happening, and I went along with it, and then I'm like, oh no. They're not just normally emotionally invested, they're like extra emotionally invested, and they're taking like my reactions to their character interactions as personal now.
Not good.
Which is not good, because one, that's like uncomfy, and it just like completely changed the dynamics of our friendships. That does put me in the position of having to contemplate like, okay, if I reject this person, now am I putting myself and my friends in physical danger? Like, that, let alone just ruining the vibe at the table.
I think that now is my biggest fear and still my apprehension about not even sex, but like more romantic RP and stuff at the table is like no longer so much am I worried about like my teenage friends just being like kind of weird and creepy and making people uncomfortable. My friend group I think isn't generally better than that, but like I think human emotions can be very complex, and even people setting out with good intentions doing things like this can cause issues that end up being much bigger than like, oh, Derek said something kind of creepy to a non-existing character, and everyone like stared at him and was like, bruh, and we moved on. And instead it's like, oh no, we don't realize that like someone caught feelings for someone else and they're not communicating it at all, and it's all happening at my table, and I just wanted to kill a lich.
Yeah, because that's the emotional side of it, and that I've had to deal with, and I'll spare the horror stories for now. This might turn into a Patreon episode if people fucking want later on, of because people got too invested in doing the sexual play or whatever kind of flirty whatever at the table, they decided to grab and or touch me at the table in a way that was like, I'm like, even in character, I don't know you like that, let alone like our friendship is not like that. What the fucking what? Thankfully, I haven't had to deal with that in a long time, but I definitely in my 20s stabbed a guy with a pencil because he decided to put his hand on my thigh at the table. And I'm like, oh, no, we are not. No. But that was also in the dark times of the 2000s, and I didn't have all of this calibration tools and things. So I just immediately went to, I am in danger, and that definitely ruined the vibe at the table, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, stabbings tend to do that.
Yeah.
Not always.
No.
Most of the time.
And again, that's why you need consent before the stabbing. If you want it to go well.
You're right.
I would have been real upset if I stabbed that guy for my safety and he was into that shit.
He's like, fuck yeah, do it again.
I know.
No!
Get the lead deeper. Sorry.
This is past trauma. It's funny now.
I have to say this real quick.
The transitive property.
I love the idea. I mean, it would probably end up being like a problematic show in the same way that Always Sunny is.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of a show where a DM is just trying to run a game of D&D and his players are just the horniest. They're trying to fuck all the time and he's just trying to think of ways to stop it. So like, we're going to go upstairs and fuck. And they go upstairs and then the orcs shoot a catapult. It blows off half the wall, you know.
I do have a version of this in real life. So back in
You found goblins in your bed?
No, but back in Sarah's baby Dungeon Master days, I was the only girl in a group of D&D players, and it was like horny teenager time, so no one was handling that situation appropriately. But I was taking my turn at dungeon mastering, and everybody was just they're like, oh, I'm flirting with the tavern wench, but because it's a girl, it got like way more intense than they would have when they were like flirting with the tavern wench when a dude was like DMing, and I was just like, this is uncomfy. To the point where there's a rogue who would not stop trying to fuck every NPC to the point where it was like getting in the way, but he wouldn't let me like fade to black or yes, anyways.
Yeah.
Would not. And because the bros were like thinking it was funny, they just kind of yes-anded him and like, no, do it. It's important. And I was like eating up so much the table time. And I'm like, I'm trying to get to the next stage so we can actually run the fucking module.
Yeah.
So I got fed up with this shit. So I bought the book of Erotic Fantasies, which is a third-party book for D&D. Let you know, there's a whole table of fantasy sexual diseases.
Yep.
So I gave that player an STI. He rolled on the table and he got one that's called Azure Balls, where it turns your testicles blue and then they fall off. So I had a whole adventure that was like a timer of the party trying to save the rogue's balls.
Hell yeah.
Because they had to go to like some druid on a mountain
Beautiful.
to like go get a herb to fix it.
Beautiful.
Everyone stopped fucking around with the wenches as much after that. They went,
Yeah.
oh, you did that. I'm like, yeah.
That's good.
That was very foundational into how I storytell, where it's like, I'll pretty much let you do whatever, as long as you understand you were giving me the yes and carte blanche to fuck with you on equal terms. So it's like, okay, cool, you want to fuck around? That's fine. I will take your dick and balls.
There was a moment I remember as when I was running for you guys, I think for the first time, and we were playing Ravenloft. As one of the attempts that schedules destroyed because we started working nights and all that bullshit. But I remember specifically we're just doing like you're in a town, regular stuff happening, and there's a blacksmith. And I believe, Sarah, your character was like, I'm going to flirt with the blacksmith. But I was so unused to it being done in a normal way that I just didn't realize what was going on.
Yeah!
And you had to talk to me. He's like, I was trying to flirt with him. Is that okay? And I was just like, oh.
I was just worried I made you uncomfortable.
No, I was just like, that was so straightforward and not weird that I thought you were just like trying to be charming. And so I mean, in the module it says he's a married man. So like,
so
no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
But like, you didn't immediately just walk up and say, hey, baby, want to fuck? And drop some gold coins. So I was just like, oh, well, you know.
Yeah, no, I was, just doing like...
This was like
normal,
a decade ago, probably. But
I'm pretty sure, because I think this was when I was replaying Fable 2 and I was seducing all of the blacksmiths. And I was like, it'd be really funny if I just flirted on this one blacksmith in the middle of this game. And I was concerned that I made Hunter uncomfortable.
No, we talked about it after. It was fine. But like, I legitimately just like... wasn't expecting it and like didn't realize it until we had like kind of moved on. I was like, oh, that's what was going.
So the way it played out was basically the blacksmith was just like kind of on the tism spectrum,
Yeah.
and he's just like, wait, damn.
Yeah. Can't wait to tell the wife about this one.
Yeah, this is weird fucking ranger.
Okay, he probably got killed by those weird puppet monsters anyway. You guys were in a bad place. It was gonna get.
It was that was a rough adventure.
That was the puppets that steal people's souls. That's fun in D&D anyway.
Yeah.
He's probably soulless husk now, so it's fine. You're not missing out on much.
Hey.
You had the glow up, not him.
Thank you. But yeah. So now romance basics. Dun-dun-dun. We got through the fuck section. So Vampire the Masquerade is a horror game about blood-sucking monsters existing as parasites on the body of human society. This means it's not difficult to come up with romance scenarios with huge imbalances of power, malignant ulterior motives, and destructive impulses that doom even those with the best intentions. Lean into this aspect of the game and you'll find that it is liberating to play romance where everybody is a disaster waiting to happen. That is from Bloodstained Love, page 11. So yeah, if you want to be just the messiest of twinks, go for it. That's fine. As long as everybody's cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. As Bloodstained Love later mentions, horror and romance are genres that benefit from emotional investment. Having proper understandings of boundaries and expectations can help improve the experience and prevent unwanted disasters all around. You're like, no, I want to have my planned disaster bisexual. I don't want to have I ruined my friendships disaster.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah. I play a lot of disaster bisexuals. I don't mean to all the time. It just...
I just play a lot of disasters.
You just like disasters, and it's great. You're just like, what if I have this guy and he has this really extreme opinion? I'm like, good luck, man. Yeah, Bloodstained Love has some good walkthroughs on the steps for kind of dealing with these kinds of things in your game. It starts on page 23 with preparing to play. If you're an experienced player, I would say that this is decent to read through, but I would not call it required reading. It's just kind of a like, okay, cool. There's, in the context of Vampire, these are various options and steps I can look to at character creation if I want to have a Gothic romance involved in my character. If you're new or you feel awkward about what and how to do things moving forward with romantic gameplay, this is a pretty good jumping off point. I had no real problems with this. It was all like, yep, these make sense. This is a good tutorial level. Good job, book.
Bing, bing, bing.
I can give positive feedback. Look at me.
Yeah.
It's like they did a good job.
Yeah! Bloodstained Love also has plot hooks for storytellers to explore romance options in your stories beginning on page 35. There's also a whole chapter of romanceable NPCs that are pre-built with plot hooks and stats and all that bullshit, which is cool. And there's also modules based around romance for chapter 4. So if you are having a lazy storyteller week, and you're like, fuck, I didn't prepare, go to chapter 4. There's like spicy tea gossip content all right there, ready to go. You can just pick it up, chunk it in, whatever.
Boom.
I don't think I really found any of those modules that you couldn't stick in any setting or city in particular. Not that I'm remembering off the dome.
My players are getting along too well. Time to introduce a hot Toreador man.
Exactly.
Destroy them all.
To destroy.
Just like, everything's going too well. What if I introduce just just the sluttiest man?
He's all the things that people started talking about vampires when vampires first started.
Yeah.
He's swarthy and handsome. I don't trust him.
Ugh. He might be Greek. I'm sorry, I'll never not make fun of just white Western Europeans just being afraid of other Europeans.
Yeah.
And for like the dumbest reasons, let alone going outside of that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of afraid of Europeans. Although I am semi-European in
You're
nature.
very European.
They scare me, okay?
They do. That's fine.
I'm Swedish. We stay in our little space.
Got our own little corner.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
You could replace teenagers with Europeans in European scare the living shit out of me.
God damn. Skipper's singing My Chemical Romance. The world is falling apart.
I am a sleepy boy, friends.
It's okay. You're doing your best, and we appreciate you.
This is what you get for having fun, motherfucker.
I know.
God
How
damn.
dare you go kayaking?
How dare
How dare you have romantic feeling towards nature?
Shibe.
Shibe, though.
Hey, girl, you thick.
You're just talking to a tree.
Right out. There's a dude walking.
Oh, yeah, I
I
was
really
talking to
hope
the
he could
tree.
hear you.
I thought you were talking to the tree outside.
I was talking to the tree outside, but hey, that guy's not very thick. He definitely has a runner body. It's a stick.
He's very fit for an older gentleman. I
Yeah.
applaud him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good for him. We are here for...
Maybe you should go let him know you appreciate his form.
The window's locked.
No, that's okay. Don't sexually harass my neighbor.
Look, don't sexually harass people, period. I am here, though, for positive catcalling.
Yeah, I was going to tell him, you got that runner body.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the people that do like positive catcalling just in public with like a megaphone. It's kind of fantastic. They're just like, hey, yo, girl, looks like you balanced your checkbook.
Nice.
Whoa.
And their Cheryl was always like, yeah, I do. Just like, it looks like you make some mean fucking banana bread. And they're just like, yeah.
That's fun.
I love that shit. It's a good time.
You look like you knit.
I made this cardigan. It's like, hell yeah. I just want a vampire that just very loudly gives people very positive comments.
I had an idea for a fun romance plot vampire.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the movie earlier, but I thought it would be really fun to have a character, probably a Toreador, but could be another clan, who is kind of like a matchmaker, known for like making big weddings and that sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
but absolutely zero riz themselves, like a full hitch situation. They're like the most never fucked kind of vampire ever, but like
But
they
because
throw
they
the
don't fuck.
biggest weddings ever.
But because they don't fuck, they're super good at like matchmaking and putting together weddings because they have
Yeah.
no investment.
You could spin that as a Gothic tragedy.
You could. It would be great. But yeah.
Surrounded by love all the time.
Mm-hmm. They're like, I'm experiencing it vicariously.
Oh.
They're either humanity 4 or 9.
There you go. All right, so Bloodstained Love also has some new merits, flaws, and disciplines on pages 151 and 154. I will give you the note asterisks. Some of the disciplines are repeats from the Player's Guide and Blood Sigils, so...
Mm-hmm.
They're just reprinting some that they think would be useful in romantic situations.
Yeah, which I get. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way because they've made such a big deal about, like, we don't want to reprint material because we're trying to save on books and shipping because of money and the environment, which I'm like, that's great. I fucking love that.
Please don't cut the stuff we really need.
Why are you reprinting...
merits from the core book.
Yeah, like disciplines when we could have used like a chart on the bleed section.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not mad. This isn't like a serious critique. It's just Sarah has editing questions as a user of the material.
could have been a sentence. These from previous book could be useful.
Yeah. It's like, here's the new ones. If you want to see other ones that'd be useful, go to this book and page. So, yeah, there's that. Sarah does have a point of caution, though. Some folks may want to use games to explore themselves. Others don't want to partake in that shit. The Bloodstained Love book does bring up several times that, hey, you can use romantic play to, like, you know, explore things that you may or may not be interested in, or, like, boost your confidence and be more comfortable about things, which is totally fair. Mm-hmm. Not saying that's a bad thing. I think I've gotten better at interpersonal communication skills because of tabletop gaming. Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot to explore certain aspects of yourself at a table when people are not ready or aware that that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the line between player and character is often much thinner than people like to assume.
Yeah, like, it's very hard to not put a portion of yourself or some aspects of yourself into characters that you're portraying, even if it's just a fucking NPC. It's extra hard when it's a player character because you have, like, investment and you have to spend time, like, living in the brain space of this character. And you could also accidentally set yourself up to have problems if you're doing things like exploring your sexuality or your gender expression at a table, and somebody is portraying a character that, like, isn't into that shit. And I'm like, okay, you're putting yourself very vulnerably in a position where you're going to get some really harsh critiques, and you, as the player, might not be ready for that, let alone the character.
Right.
So...
And also, if other people at the table don't know that's what you're doing, they might act differently if they knew that was something very personal to you versus just a character doing their thing.
Yeah.
Like, that would probably be a situation that I would handle more gently.
Mm-hmm. Or, you know, just being like, hey, I can just...
Or check in,
or, you know, if you want to see how you would handle people not accepting you and just kind of get a feel for it, like, that's fine. If that's something, if you want more affirmations on things, like, that's also okay, but I need you to tell me things because I can't just read your brain. So I kind of recommend make sure that your table is on board with whatever potentially might be part of your game. As we said a bajillion times, be ready to pull the safety ripcord when needed. There's no shame in ever at any point just being like, time out or stop. Just, there's nothing wrong with that. Be ready to do that whenever. And also be ready to accept critique and pivot when needed. Cause there might be times where, because you're exploring yourself, you go too hard in the paint in an aspect of some sort, and somebody else is like uncomfy with that, or is like, hey, I got a critique on what you're doing. And be prepared to listen, because sometimes people might have good advice. Yeah.
Sometimes they have bad advice.
Sometimes they have bad advice.
That's also something
and it is
to be
valid.
cautious in this situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's also why we talked about it a little bit last, and it came up in the server. But in general, I am not a fan of role play as therapy with friends, and I think this goes right along with that. Like, unless your friend is a therapist who you're paying to do this, like, it's such a weird line for me that I am not comfortable around. Like, there are probably people who can do it and it's fine.
Yeah.
But generally for me and for most people, I would just recommend against that. That's like a friendship ruiner. That's a mixed feelings. It's blurring there's an important separation between you and a therapist generally, and when the person who's acting your therapist is now also a friend, and also you're doing it in a fun setting as a role play game and as a form of, like, play. There are so many mixed emotions and, like, crossed wires happening there. It just seems like a minefield to me.
Yeah, I'd say it's just you're potentially putting a lot of extra work on your storyteller, because if you're doing... I don't think there's anything wrong with playing a game and having, like, catharsis on things, but that is different from, I'm trying to express something about my gender identity and I'm kind of just trying things on, and it's like, okay, well, if you have a dysphoria issue, I'm not trained to handle that.
That, or, like, if you have a licensed professional therapist who you talk to already and who's like, you should try exposing yourself to these things that you're afraid of. You're afraid of spiders. We go to that often a lot. It's on one of the consent sheets. You're afraid of spiders. You should learn to expose yourself to spiders and see it safe. Playing a game where you fight some spiders might not be the biggest problem in the world. The ST might want to know, like, don't be too mean about the spiders. But other than that, that's probably pretty safe.
Or it's like, don't get too descriptive of the spiders. Or it's like, hey, we have a spider mini on the table, but I purposely, like, put a little hat on it.
Yeah.
To, like, make it chill, and then we just, as the game goes, there's just creepier spiders.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to handle that can be okay.
Go to the Underdark, start dealing with Lolth.
Yeah! Oh, then you made the spiders horny.
So?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's Lolth. I'm down.
All right, that's fair.
That's one way to overcome your fears.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Come.
Yeah. It's establishing dominance.
I don't think you're going to do that with Lolth.
No.
Topping Lolth? Probably
You're
not.
not gonna
Gonna be
top
honest.
She's got too much of a booty.
Yeah, it's true.
She got the spiders don't have a thorax. Technically, no.
She
No.
kind of does, though, because she's kind of like a spider centaur, right? Where it's like a woman's waist coming out of a spider
Yeah, but
butt.
I thought spiders had like two parts. There's like the front part and the back part.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The drawings of her are kind of weird. But
Yeah.
I thought it was thorax, cephalothorax, abdomen.
Is that what it is?
I think the
I
middle
don't-
is cephalothorax.
I will draw a
Wait.
diagram for our patrons about how fuckable Lolth is.
It's like, where do you put the pussy on?
It's kind of like the dog pants problem.
Yes! Like the dog pants problem.
She in some of these pictures she do have kind of like a thorax situation going on.
Yeah.
But in then others it's just like a lady with a lot of legs. So
Yeah.
the art changes depending on edition. So that's something else you're going to have to talk about at your table. How fuckable do you want your Lolths?
Yeah, honestly, how fuckable are the monsters is a big thing.
This
Yeah.
one says head, thorax, and abdomen. What is a
Oh, okay.
cephalothorax?
I don't know, unfortunately.
We should save this for the Zamitz episode. Where do you put the pussy on a spider? I'm sure some elders have
okay,
strong
okay,
opinions.
hold on.
Hell yeah!
What?
So a cephalothorax is the part that a spider has.
Okay.
That is the head and the thorax.
Oh, because they're like conjoined?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
I fucking knew that was a real word.
Okay, I was like,
Hell
I know
yeah.
I was not incorrect. I was like, spiders have two parts.
Yes, they have two parts.
And the
insects
ladies
have
come
three.
out of the front part.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Like usually right behind the face.
I've drawn spiders, so I try to do... As much as I enjoy drawing in a kind of cartoony style, I like things to be anatomically accurate, which I know is confusing, but... Anywho.
I get it.
But yeah, speaking of, like, how fuckable do you want the villains to be? Gothic romance and power. This is something that, I wish Bloodstained Love talked about it a bit more detail, because it's a big chunk of Gothic as a genre, and it's part of the thing with a lot of love plots that people enjoy, but they don't articulate well, which can cause a lot of squick. So, there's that. So, Gothic literature covers several tropes. We're going to focus on romance and power dynamics for a smidge. So, Gothic literature is part of Romanticism. And a big part of that is gigantic feelings. Lots of them, overwhelming emotion.
Kind of over the top style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very,
Corny if presented wrong.
Yes, exactly. So not only are the emotions felt to their fullest, they should be described intensely. So it should be like crying, screaming, swooning, shaking, passing out, rushing towards your love across a field.
That scene in every rom-com that they're on a beach and they've got to run like 2 miles toward each other to embrace right as a wave hits.
Yeah, having the great divulsions of intense emotions that have been building up the entire movie, like in a marble gazebo while it's raining, Pride and Prejudice. That kind of shit.
Except that in my example, they'd be wearing black.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a goth romance.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of recommend using adjectives. Use your language to help intensify these things. You don't necessarily have to like make what's happening literally be very intense. You can just describe it very intensely. Kind of an internet fun focus on this is the book talk girlies that are really into like romanticism and gothic romances get really obsessed with like the way men will pose their hands while they're talking. Like, that gets really sexualized.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I was looking over your
Guys,
business proposal
this
today.
This is an audio medium, and now I
How's
have to
it
describe one is groping their titties, and the other one is doing the finger
And the
miming
hole.
into the hole. I will let you figure out who is doing what at your leisure. I can share this later if people want, but yeah, there's like tons of just like horny TikTok edits based around like how romanticized male characters are like positioning their hands while they're talking or moving and doing things.
I need to read these so I can up my riz.
It's
Start
fascinating.
moving my hands in sexy ways.
Yeah.
I have ADD. That's no wonder people find me so irresistible. My hands be moving.
They just be moving. But yeah, so using adjectives and descriptors to like intensify things is a good thing to be doing. So things like bitterly feeling, burning ardor, etc.
Get like H.P. Lovecraft with it, only
Yeah.
not racist. Get like to the point where you're describing like the grain of the wood on the table.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking table, but you've just described it enough to where I can see it, kind of thing.
Yeah. And also you can have the setting itself also reflect the emotions that are going on. So like raining when somebody is longing for something, long hallways or alleyways when there's like the dread of a plot beat coming up. Fog and mist when there's like mystery and intrigue about.
Spooky.
Yeah, so these are hallmarks of Gothic literature. And these are things that are a great chance to flex your creativity and pull references from books and movies and things. And you just chuck them in your game. But it's I in storytelling like to try to use these couple of tropes to build scenes as opposed to the scene being like, well, I have to make this like super, super intense. I'm like, no, this could be just the low-keyest thing. I just have to like use my words correctly. I have to look max my adjectives and adverbs in a way to get everybody like really invested. And like, that's more my, like, if I get people really invested in mundane bullshit, I'm doing good. It's a good day for Sarah.
Is that grammar maxing?
Grammar maxing. Yes. If we can grammar max.
Okay.
So that's the one side of that. And, you know, then we get into the problematic side of Gothic literature, which is power balancing. So not only will emotions and the environment be set off kilter because a lot of building tension is having an imbalance in like the emotions and feelings where it's like, okay, you start off at an equilibrium and then everything gets super heightened and then you go super down because you're super sad or there's like a catharsis or tragedy or some sort. Same thing kind of happens with power balances. Traditionally, this is often played out with a virtuous waif of a heroine or quote-unquote new woman heroine who's like, I'm a modern lady, I have a bicycling skirt, and I know how to use a typewriter. Very Mina Harker.
Very fancy.
Yes. But usually they're having some sort of face-off or they're suffering because of some sort of brooding aristocratic man. That's the big trope in the Gothic literature. Is some ladies like, oh, I'm too virtuous and good for this world. And then, you know, the bad guy has to kick the dog and kill the virtuous woman, and then the village comes with pitchforks and stabs him, and it turns out he was a vampire the whole time.
Whoa!
Ah! Oh my god.
So spooky.
I literally described half the pod of Polidori's the vampire. There you go. I've spoiled a 300-year-old book.
I was gonna get to that one eventually.
I'm sorry, Hunter. So, I do want to note, there's no shame in enjoying dark romance, which is a fairly recently popular plot, recently coming back as popular subgenre of books and films that has been pop culturally getting a lot of lampooning because they're just like, it's bad for feminism. I'm like, not necessarily. I mean, it can, but it doesn't have to.
It's kind of like saying video games are bad for...
Yeah, it's a lot of the
kids.
Same fucking arguments.
Yeah.
Where it's like, look, if the lady wants to enjoy her I got kidnapped by a mob boss fantasy fic, I don't care. Like, fine, whatever.
She didn't actually get kidnapped by a mob boss. We're
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, like, if you read it, you'd realize, like, the whole plot is, yeah, she gets kidnapped, but then she, like, Uno reverses power bottoms her way, and now she runs the mob, or however the fucking plot goes. We're not here to be like, no, boo, you can't enjoy bad power dynamics in your stories. I'm like, you can, just don't put yourself or your friends in danger, or put them in weird squicky positions because of that.
They can be very interesting stories,
Mhm.
in fact.
I would say make sure that these dynamics are things that the players want to simulate, and make sure they have ways to do check-ins and tap-outs. These steps don't count if you shame the player for needing a break or to tone down a scene or the plot situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you are overly apologetic about it. Making a big deal about it, I think, at all is a bad...
Almost worse.
Yeah, because then you're centering your, like, oh no, I made my friend uncomfortable. I now am uncomfortable. I need to be the center of attention. Like, you're not the aggrieved party here, so, like...
Neither of you should be the center of attention. You should move on, and the two of you can talk about it later after things have cooled off.
Yeah. Or if it's like it's like, hey, do you need me to, like, fade? We can just fade to black now, and then...
Move on.
Yeah, and we can either talk about it during after scene wrap up and just be like, hey, yes, no, do that again, yes, no, calibrate, da-da-da.
Even like, we had to fade this scene earlier than I thought. Here are a couple details that you would have gotten that you didn't get to.
Or it turns out there's also the good news version of this, because I've had this happen in games where you're fucking around with like power dynamic stuff and it goes too well, and then everybody's like, you guys, it got real horny, you gotta tone this the fuck down. Like, it's got spicy for everybody. We're like, we're invested, we want you to, we're doing yes anyways. We need to yes anyways this. And it's like, okay, friends,
Thanks.
Not a problem. That might be a scene where you and the person engaged might put a pause and it's like, hey, if we went to one-on-one on our own time, cool, that's like the best time to do that. But for now, because we're at the table,
pause.
We're going to pull the blinds down.
Yeah.
And focus on somebody else for a bit.
Right.
So yeah, sometimes the check-ins and tap-outs and all those things are not necessarily the, oh, this went too far. Bad thing happened. Sometimes it's like, no, you succeeded. You won vampire. Good job. You're winning too much. There's too much winning. we gotta tone it down a bit. Here's your gold star. But yeah. So that's the fun part. We're gonna get into a little bit of unfun, so apologize, but it's important. So, quote, to identify abuse, we do not simply talk about blow-ups and insults. We locate them within the context of power, analyze where the power resides, and in what way those behaviors either enforce the abusive context or seek to rupture it. And that's from Shivek. We don't think of participants in a game of tackle football, paintballers, folks in a mosh pit as abusers and victims. These are typically grown folks consenting to partake in a game with agreed-upon rules to simulate violence.
Good times, actually. All three of those things are fun.
Yeah! Abuse actually comes in when an abuser wields their power to undermine the autonomy and agency of their victim. So, once a participant is being pushed into taking part in actions due to fear, coercion, etc., then the action becomes inherently unsafe and unethical. So, just because you're doing a violence does not inherently make it abusive. Just because you're enacting in something sexual does not mean it's inherently exploitative.
Yeah.
It depends on the context.
Everything depends on context.
Yeah.
You don't look at boxers and say, wow, look at those horrible people. How could they do that?
Yeah. Or if you get into professional wrestling, it's like, I don't think the wrestlers in the ring are inherently abusers or abusive.
They could be outside of the ring.
Yeah, they could be outside of the ring. It could be the company they work for is exploitative and abusive, but it's like...
Is.
Yeah, is.
Yeah, but... But I would not say the inherent act of two grown adults putting on spandex and getting into a square box to talk smack and basically perform masculinity drag...
We're gonna
is inherently exploitative or bad.
No.
Yeah. I'm going to put aside my own personal things about sex work because, dear God, the amount of people... Because, I used to hit people with sticks for cash. And it's just like, I can't believe you take being exploited like that. And I'm like, I got to hit rich guys with sticks. And they paid me. I don't know how that's exploitative for me, but, okay.
Right.
Thank you for talking down my experience and da-da-da-da-da-da. So... Yeah, so there's a lot of power dynamics in Vampire that I would say are very abusive or simulations of abuse. So being aware of what that actually is will tell a better story and as well as allow you to parse out when at what points in your game that what you guys are simulating becomes too much or problematic and you might need to edit it, or a character that you thought was a good guy is doing things that you realize, oh, the context has changed because of either player and PC choices, and now this guy I thought was cool is not cool and now needs to have consequences.
Right.
So even if it's not a, hey, we need to tap out and take a pause and edit things, you as a storyteller might be like, oh, because of the way things are written now, I don't want to narratively make what they are doing seem good in the simulation. So now I need to write a consequence. Even if it's just the rich guy obviously is going to get away with doing the bad thing, but there should be some sort of social acknowledgement, something.
Everyone in Elysium talks shit about them.
It's like
just completely ignores him the entire Elysium.
They're just like, I don't want to deal with him. I don't want to.
He tries to start conversations and they look at him, turn around and walk away.
Yeah.
How much willpower damage do you think that'd be? If every single kindred at an Elysium were just dirty look, turn and walk away?
I would definitely do a social combat roll for that.
Yeah.
See, things like this is where you can do social combat in a way where you're like, not only does this narratively make sense, this is to heighten things. Mm-hmm. I just really like social combat.
Imagine it's one of those moments they believe it's Shadows of New York. Mm-hmm. The first, is the Shadows the first one, or
the second one?
So it's Coteries. It's the first one where you're at Elysium, and if you talk to the one guy, he's like, "You don't want to talk to me. Mm-hmm. Everyone's already looking. You should leave now." Mm-hmm. And it turns out he's just the thin blood primogen.
I know. I love him.
I feel
a single dad that works 2 jobs.
But I imagine that kind of guy just walks up to that person and he's like, "Welcome to the club. You can talk to me now."
Oh no! Oh no!
Brutal.
Brutal. You went from status 3 to status 1. Oh no. But yeah, to kind of dovetail off of that thing from it's a note from Shivik's article that I shared earlier, which is honestly a really good read. It is about kink, but there's a lot of discussions about play and games in it, because kink is a adult content form of play, and so there's a lot of correlations over to TTRPGs that I think are really informative. So I definitely recommend go take a read on this, even if you don't do BDSM.
Yeah.
But thing he had brought up that was a good note is, you aren't going to stop or help abuse victims by telling them what they are doing is bad for them, or they got themselves into these situations due to the dynamics they like exploring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
Does not help. It's like, look, if somebody's super into like bodice rippers and like they're just constantly playing vampires who get into situations like that, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that it is okay for you as a storyteller to allow another player to take advantage and put the bodice ripper enjoying character into situations where they become uncomfortable. And you just go, well, that's the consequences of your actions. And it's like, you took the simulation to a point where it's not something that they were actually interested in, and you're undermining their authority on it and their like autonomy, and now it's become a problem.
I mean, that's not that much different than like, well, what was she wearing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, and like to make it less horny, even though this is the horny episode, there's like some people that are like, yeah, I just really like playing characters who like get into fights all the time. And it's like, yeah, that's fine, and there should be consequences for that. But if you get to the point where you just start like taking characters' limbs in fights without like getting their consent on the situation,
yeah,
or doing a check-in, I feel like that's also shitty.
Like other players' limbs, you mean?
Yeah, because like, yeah, that sometimes happens where it's like, hey, in Vampire, you can like rip a limb off and the character will eventually grow it back. It'll just be ag damage.
Yeah.
And I think because taking a limb does put somebody into, now you have to simulate playing a disabled character for a period of time. I think it's good as a storyteller to go like, hey man, just so you know, I rolled on the critical injury table. It landed on I'm taking your leg. Are you good with that? Can I take a different limb, or do you want me to re-roll this? Like, are you Gucci with playing this? Most players I know are like, yeah, that's fine, whatever.
Right.
But you might have somebody that like isn't prepared to deal with the consequences of that, and you need to have a calibration on that. And I think it's shitty to be like, well, you did this, so get fucked. But, it's like, it's putting the onus of the situation onto the person who's going to be suffering from it, which I think it gets into uncomfortable areas as well. Like the little note that I wanted to add on this was, you stop abuse by dismantling authoritarian structures and giving people tools to advocate for themselves that the community upholds and supports. So, I'm trying to think of a good... So like in Vampire, like if you have a pack of anarchs that are trying to like dismantle the abuse of the Camarilla and they're taking violent action, they're reacting to the violence that's already been done to them. So yelling at the anarchs and being like, well, you're just as bad as the Camarilla. And it's like, are they though? Like exploring that is good and things like that. But, saying, well, like both sides are bad. I'm like, are they though? Like given the context of what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
One is self-defense.
Yeah. And you don't want to get into like, and you can, you can get into this if you want, but you don't want to unknowingly get into situations where it's like a lot of vampire relationships do end up being like abusive relationships. And it's okay if people want to explore that and simulate that. But if your game is setting it up so that the aggrieved or the abused character, if they lash out, is also being told that they are as bad as the abuser, that narratively reinforces that the abuser can just get away with what they're doing.
Right.
And that the abused character is not going to get support.
I think that there could be a place for that if, you're confronting one elder vampire about this other elder vampire, and the one you're talking to is like, well, I mean, you did go to his haven. That then gives that coterie, another NPC is this character, that gives that coterie that motherfucker we gotta watch out for too.
Yeah.
I think that using that kind of thing as another I'm a bad guy or something like that is a good thing, but I don't think that being the end result or glorifying that is a good. Yeah. Which is I think what you're saying. Right?
Yeah, basically. And there's also on the flip side of the bleed thing, if somebody as a player is like, hey, I understand we're playing a game and the way that the coterie is set up, so-and-so in the party has like a higher station ranking socially, but they keep dogging on me. And it's getting to the point where it's like not fun. So, and I don't know how to talk to this other player about it. And if you, the storyteller's like, well, those are the dynamics you guys agreed to, so like suck it up.
Right.
I'm like, that's not good.
I mean, all relationships dynamics change over time anyway, and that should be something you should be prepared for, sexual or no, power dynamic-y play or not, like characters dynamics, real people dynamics, friend dynamics, all that is going to change over time.
Yeah.
And so you just have to be ready for that because it's going to happen. Be ready to talk about it. Like the two best friends who set out on an adventure together in the party may grow into their own people and may not be as friendly.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's going to happen in like that's just like a non-horny example, but like in storytelling that kind of shit happens. Be ready for it and be ready to talk about it and be like, hey, are you okay with this? Is this all right? How do you feel about what changed?
Yeah, and doing romance in the context of vampire, there are power dynamics between the vampires, between vampire human, vampire werewolf, vampire mage. Yeah. So just kind of being aware that the game is going to simulate things that are going to be inherently abusive, and try your best to navigate things in a way that everybody's comfortable with and is understanding of and can have consent talks about is good. Because I love role-playing a bunch of like toxic ass fucking relationship dynamics things, but that's just because I enjoy playing characters that goes no and smashes that shit. That's fun for me. Other people might not want to fucking deal with that. That's fine. And some people are just like, look, I just want us to all hold hands and like smooch and like, that's fine. That's how you guys want to do it. It's cool.
I want us to all hold hands and kill the dragon and take his treasure.
Yeah.
Friendship.
It's magic.
And I think another good episode to go back, because we talked about it, is our feeding episode, because there's the argument that feeding is always inherently parasitic and abusive. So we talk about a little bit of this then too.
Yeah, it's like
the existence of vampires is inherently abusive or parasitic. So
in most contexts, yes, I think there's ways you could pursue things in a way that are less harmful and less abusive. That's what you want to explore.
It's definitely, and the tone of your game is going to change that. But it is something just to keep in mind, because I think the key word there is even less. Like, even if you're, like, buying bagged blood, like, if you read between the lines, that's not coming from your friendly donor clinic where they got paid $20
And even then, those donor clinics are super exploitative.
Yeah, I was about to say, those places are very easily bought by a vampire, and maybe it was supposed to go to somebody for a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
But, whoops.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of dynamics at play in vampire beyond sexuality, and I think everything we've talked about in a sexual lens can also be applied to like the day-to-day existence of a vampire, because it's so tied into the mythos.
Yeah, so that's the Romance and Fuck episode. I ended on a downer.
You were right though. I think this may be the least horny episode of any show about Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah, it's like it's easy to talk about like, oh yeah, dicks and pussies. Like that's easy to talk about. Anybody can fucking do that. It's whatever, or titillation, or cat suits and kink.
We use that as a palate cleanser.
Yeah, like that's great. Anybody can talk about that, but there's a lot more to it that's going on in a lot of these games and dynamics, and having a frank discussion about, okay, I know you guys just want to, smooch the homies goodnight, which is fantastic, but what does that mean for your table? What does smooch the homies actually mean for your table? And like, how far can you go? And if the smooching goes so far, do you have to fade to black? And, if you're smooching the homie and the homie is like the sheriff, what the fuck does that mean? And what if your friend, the homie that you're smooching that's a sheriff, decides to like reverse that shit on you?
When you get back at it.
Yeah, see? And there's like
you burn down his haven. Yeah,
there's like great stories that come from that if everybody's into it. And you might get one player that's like, I just wanted to smooch the homies goodnight. This didn't have to get that deep.
Do we really have to be packing these Molotovs, guys? Come on. We could just hug.
We could just hug it out.
Greg, put the rag in the bottle.
Fuck.
Look, I just told you it wasn't a good idea. You guys weren't going to be a good match. And now I have to have all these matches.
We're vampires. We don't even like fire, right? It's the point!
It's like, or, there's just tension at the table. They're just like, you two characters just should fuck already. And it's like, well, should they?
Should they?
Is that something you guys want to deal with at the table? I don't fucking... It's your game.
Almost every IRL situation where people have been like, you guys should fuck already, and then it happens, it shouldn't have happened. Tends to have been like, they maybe had the right idea not doing that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta leave it at first base, and that's okay.
And sometimes you just need to leave the fucking
field.
stadium.
Play a different sport.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I'm switching teams.
Dang.
I'm gonna go play Hurley now.
Hurley's fun.
Fuck sex! Hurley!
Is that the final note you're leaving us on?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I don't even know how to play Hurley.
Oh, it's okay.
My final note would be
Mm-hmm.
a summation of everything we've already said.
Yeah.
So just re-listen to the episode real quick.
Yeah,
guys.
go play it 2 or 3 more times.
Yeah, that's my final note is press the back button once.
Listen to it again.
re-listen.
Rate us 5 stars.
Yeah.
Like,
Like us,
subscribe, ring the
comment.
bell.
Comment.
We
Thumbs
should probably tell people to do that more for our metrics.
Honestly,
We're so
we
bad at
should.
it.
Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy it, just let us know.
Yeah.
We love a good subscriber.
Yeah.
But
We love a bad subscriber.
yeah, we consent to you subscribing to us in any way you like, baby.
Just
Hmm.
it's gonna be exciting when we get to the point where we start getting like hate follows and hate listens. It's like, hell yeah.
That fuels me, just the
Hate
idea.
listens. I like.
I'm
that
gonna
idea.
fade to black on that thought for the y'all's sake. But no, just talk to your homies. It's a weird topic to bring up for a lot of groups, I think, and I think unless you have the right friend group, you're probably going to have to find a group who's specifically looking for this kind of roleplay.
Mhm.
I mean, some of them exactly. I mean, unless you're already in a polycule with a bunch of TTRPG players who all like vampire, like you're probably not, your form of kink isn't playing this game. That's something you're probably gonna have to search out.
Yeah.
But like, even in for smaller situations, like I know a lot of people who just aren't going to be comfortable with like interplayer romance and things like that, and you just have to respect that. And if that's something you want, you might have to go looking for it.
Yeah, and I think there's more interest in kind of this more intense or potentially more intense forms of play because of the popularity with like dark romance and like all the book talk girlies and people like turning Baldur's Gate into a dating sim and things, table systems like Monster Hearts, which is basically like a romance play game, but everybody's like pretending to be like witches and succubi and werewolves and yeah,
It's like Monster High or whatever that game's called.
yeah. It's things like that, and it's, you know, I think it's all valid. Your role play is valid.
But it might not be valid with all your friends. And I guess all what I was trying to say is this is a topic that, like, don't feel ashamed. You can be a little upset, but don't be upset with your friends if they're not down to dive into these kind of things with you.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be like, oh, dang, I was hoping for it. You're not allowed to be like, oh, fuck you guys.
Yeah, just Vampire in particular is a roleplay system that has a bit of a reputation of being extraordinarily horny.
Yeah.
It's kind of expected. And it's like, yeah, you can play a vampire game and it'd be not horny at all, and that's totally valid. And you can play the game where it's just every session is fucking
That's it. That's all it is.
it's all
just
fucking. It's just fucking. Yeah, you can do that. You can just do the horniest, sluttiest little guys and gals and non-binary pals that you want.
Okay. All right. Here's a question.
Mhm.
It's wrong to join a play group to try and get kink out of it. You should not join a play group specifically for that.
Unless it's advertised as such.
Yes, unless it's advertised as such. Is it wrong to join a BDSM dungeon to try and find vampire players?
Okay, here's the thing. A lot of people that do kink are already into TTRPGs, so like I don't feel like it would be difficult.
Okay, cool. So, friends, if you're ever really in the need for a vampire group, just go to your local dungeon.
Go to a munch.
Go to a munch.
Say
bring
you're a
up some
dom and then
vampire-
just bring out your book.
I don't know how well that'll
The
work.
amount
but
that
Make
would
your
work.
character now. 3d6 in 6 times in a row. That's what you get.
Go.
No, you don't get rerolls.
No, you don't get rerolls.
I'm sorry, Daddy's little cum slut is not allowed to play Bali this campaign. That's gonna get clipped.
Oh, man.
Before anything awful happens, friends, go make friends at your local BDSM thing. Or don't.
If that's what you're into.
Yeah, or don't.
Or don't. Like, that's valid.
Goodbye.
Wait, before
before you do that, we got to do our actual goodbye.
Yeah, so thanks, Paralyze, for
The music.
The music, it's cool. I love sounds. We also
I feel like it would also be an energy to bring to a sex scene.
Yeah,
Like
some
the
good old
soundtrack.
industrial sex.
Millions of
that's
dead
just Blade.
cyborgs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most
and
late
Underworld,
90s,
though.
early 2000s vampire movies, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that is an energy.
But we're on social media. You can catch us over at Blank Bodies Podcast on the TikTok. We have an Instagram at Blank Bodies Pod. We don't use it as much, but it is there for important details. But really, just go to blankbodies.com and you can find us everywhere and all the shits we got. So
Yeah. If you appreciate our work, we have a Patreon. You can give us a couple of dollar dues to continue the work of expanding the Blank Bodies. I don't want to say empire. Commune, yeah. Yeah. The collective.
There you go.
There we go.
I like that. That's the most ominous.
Yeah.
Collective.
The Blank Bodies Collective.
Somehow more
Dig it.
ominous than Empire.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Empire's a little passe.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's a bit collective. It's more Borg-like.
It is.
Is it my time now?
Almost. Yeah, so
Almost.
if you donate, you get Discord tiers in the community Discord. We have a community Discord. You can come hang out. People are playing games, streaming games, talking about lore and sharing the projects, running games themselves in there. I know we are hitting con season, so if you're doing things at cons and you want to share them with us, please feel free.
Come hang out.
Come on and hang out. We also have an interview series. If you enjoy that, hell yeah. If you want to participate in that, hell yeah. Hit us up at blankbodies@gmail.com and we will organize to share your cool stuff with our cool stuff.
We have some bonus episodes coming out in the next couple weeks as we hit those interviews, but that'll be a surprise. So keep your eye out.
Keep your ears perked.
Keep your nose open.
And keep your
You can
nipples
sniff
clean,
them out.
I guess.
Huh?
Does that keep your nipples clean?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
It's
some
the sex
sort
episode.
of like
I don't know. I'm
I
trying to
can-
make it horny.
That's fair. I just picture someone like using their nipples to sense the direction the wind is blowing. Like compared to all the other things we meant, that's not like a discovery sense that comes from the nipples. I would say.
I mean, if you find the right Zmeetzi.
Yeah?
My nipples are hard. The room is colder.
We're pointing west.
Our grandpa's like, it's gonna rain. My knee's getting sore. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, my nipples are hard again. It's tornado season.
It's tornado season. It's time to bring in the harvest. My nipples hurt.
But yeah, so at our Patreon, we are almost to $500 a month, which means you get 4 episodes of our beautiful, sensual voices.
I don't know if my voice is particularly sensual.
It can.
It is to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Statistically, someone's really into this show.
That's fair.
And that's what our Patreon's for.
Yeah, pay us.
But yeah, and also once we cross that threshold of $500 a month, I will do the Cursed World of Darkness Milk episode.
Someone might be into that too.
I don't doubt that, but I don't want it. I don't consent to that.
You're not into milking?
No!
You know what? You can listen to our milk episode while milking, but don't tell us about it.
Yeah, that's a
That's a fade to black.
That is a fade to black. That is a yes, anyways.
Unless you own a farm and you're doing wholesome milking.
Yeah. It's got to be a small scale farm then.
This is still going very wrong. This is going so wrong.
Tiny cows.
John, end the
Goodbye.
end the game. End the stream.
Kissing the homies.